Hey everybody, Jake here and welcome to the hobby. We all know that Pokemon cards saw one of the most dramatic popularity jump really ever in 2020. So many card prices went right through the roof. That is why I want to take a step back in today's video and share with you my top 10 cards that saw the highest value gain in 2020. For comparison purposes and just to be fair, I specifically picked cards that I purchased near the start of 2020. So all the cards on this list had the same growth period pretty much. I don't think it would be contextually fair if I had a card that I purchased 5 years ago and I compared those gains to a card that I purchased at the start of this year. They just had different aging periods. So to compare apples to apples, all of these cards were purchased at around the same period of time. Quick disclaimer, this is not a humble brag video. This is really to showcase what some of the highest growth we saw in the hobby in 2020 really was, and it is from my own personal collection. Certainly you could have cards that saw higher gains than the ones from this list, and if that does happen, then definitely let me know, because I am really curious about what you saw doing well in 2020. So definitely leave me a comment if you saw something that did even better. All right, starting off at number 10, all of these cards I purchased right around a year ago. And first up, we have Shiny Rayquaza GX PSA 10. I actually purchased this card raw for the price of $10. I spent $10 to grade it at PSA, came back as a PSA 10, so my total cost for this card was $20. It is currently valued in PSA 10 condition at $260, so that gives me a $240 return on investment, or a 1200% ROI, an incredible start for the bottom of the list, and I am already at a 1200% ROI. The Shiny Rayquaza GX is only available inside of the Hidden Fates Ultra Premium Collection, Rayquaza being one of the most popular legendary Pokemon, and in its shiny form, it is a must-have for a lot of different collectors. This card has certainly seen a very high value climb over the last year, and I expect it to continue to do well in the future. Next up, in number 9th place for the highest value growth card that I saw in 2020, we have a first edition base set Charmander PSA 10. I purchased this card pre-graded at the start of this year for $150. It is currently valued at $2,000 for a return on investment of 1233%, barely beating out the Rayquaza, but definitely some really solid gains. So right here we can see some juxtaposition right away, with the Rayquaza GX being a modern promo card and the first edition base set Charmander being a vintage set card. So we're seeing growth all throughout the hobby. It's not in one particular area, it's pretty much all around that you can find cards with high potential. Next up, we have an even more vintage card, and that is a 1996 base set Japanese Blastoise PSA 10. I purchased this card from a PWCC auction for a price point of $130. It came pre-graded already in PSA 10 condition. It is currently valued at $2,000, which means I have an ROI of right around 1400%. Very similar to the first edition base set Charmander, the 1996 Blastoise, a vintage card. This is actually not its peak price. The peak price for both the Charmander and the Blastoise was actually right around when Logan Paul did his base set booster box opening. During those times, the first edition base set Charmander was actually going for around $4,000, and the Blastoise was going for around, I would say, $6,000. So significant decline since then, but still an overall really high growth potential, and they just continue to climb. I could have honestly sold these cards during when Logan Paul did his opening for a significant gain, but even then, these are cards that I enjoy having in my collection, and I don't plan on selling them anytime soon. Next up on the list, we are back to modern. We have the Latias and Latios Alternative Art Tag Team Chi X card. I purchased this card for $20 in its raw card. I sent it in for grading at the cost of $10 for a total cost of $30, and a PSA 10 Latias and Latios Tag Team GX is currently valued at around $500 for a total return on investment of 1,567%. The Latias and Latios is actually my favorite Tag Team GX card, and it has performed extremely well. The card has a very, very heartwarming design, no pun intended. It's a really beautiful card, and it actually saw the highest jump right around Christmas time, because I honestly think it was just a great Christmas present. If you have this card, or you have someone in your life that really enjoys Pokemon cards, then the Latias and Latios card is a great just single card present. It really shows that you care, and overall a really beautifully designed card. Without Team Up getting a reprint anytime soon, I don't see prices on this card declining in the future. Next up on the list, I have Shibuya Pikachu PSA 10. I purchased this card ungraded for the extremely affordable price of only $5. I spent $10 getting this card graded, came back as PSA 10. So my total cost on this card was $15, and it is currently valued at right around $300. So wow. The ROI on this car is at 1900%, so it saw a 19 times value multiplier in 2020. Yeah, at the start of this year, you could find Shibuya Pikachu ungraded selling for $5 everywhere, and you could pick up, 10, 20, 30 copies of this card, and it was honestly really undervalued at the time. And it's well deserving of a spot on this list because this card is just really gorgeous as well. A very pop design on its artwork, not something that you really see anywhere else in Pokemon cards. Honestly, the graffiti art style on it is really one of a kind, and I think this card, once again, is really starting to see the popularity gain that it well deserves in the hobby as being one of the most unique and adorable Pikachu promo cards. In 5th place, we see a Charizard card. It's actually the only Charizard card on this list, and that is a 1996 PSA 10 Japanese base set Charizard. I purchased this card pre-graded already in PSA 10 condition near the start of this year for $280. It is currently valued at right around $6,000, which brings the return on investment on this card right over 2,000%. A massive value gain. One of the reasons I purchased this card was because I honestly see it as an even rarer and more vintage version of base set than even our first edition English base set, right? First edition English base set is very popular, but it came out in 1999, and I wanted something even older, and I saw this set as being a great opportunity, picked it up, did really well. Certainly, Japanese cards have gained a lot of popularity over the period of 2020. A lot more people are willing to purchase Japanese cards than ever before. Next up on the list, we have the Eevee Scream Promo PSA 10. I purchased this card raw ungraded for $15. I spent $10 getting it graded, came back as a PSA 10. It is currently valued at $600. It cost me $25, so a total return on investment of 2,300%. Pretty astronomical. The Scream promos have done really well this year, and the Eevee promo is very popular. Eevee has a ton of fan, and this card is one of the ones that if you're an Eevee collector, you probably want to have inside of your collection. Next up, we actually have a set card on the list, and it's from Cosmic Eclipse. That's just giving you a hint. Hopefully you can decide what card that is. And it is actually the Pikachu Secret Rare card, Cosmic Eclipse PSA 10. I purchased this card for $10 when Cosmic Eclipse released right around November 2019. It cost me $10 to grade the card, so my total cost for this card in my collection was $20. This Pikachu PSA 10 from Cosmic Eclipse is currently valued right around $500 for a return on investment of 2,400%. Honestly, astronomical for a set card. You just don't see set cards bringing this level of return. And here's the thing, it's a modern card and it's beating out a lot of vintage cards on this list. Just shows how popular some modern cards can really be. If you pick the right card, you can definitely see very similar level of returns. Next up on the list, taking second place for the highest growth card that I saw in 2020, we have the Psyduck Scream promo card PSA 10. I purchased this card ungraded for the cost of $15 straight from Japan. It cost me $10 to have this card graded, so my total cost was $25, and this card is currently valued at right around $700 for a return on investment of 2,700%. Honestly, I can't talk enough about the Scream promos. They have done incredibly well. They are super iconic, and the only thing I can say is I want more. Not just of the Scream promos, but I think more artist collabs or homage to other artists would be great. I would love to see a Leonardo da Vinci set. I would love to see a Vincent van Gogh. I would love to see a Pokemon version of Starry Night. I think these collabs with traditional art is really, really great for the hobby because it sort of ties Pokemon cards into the vintage art market or fine art market, which is something that really drives up the value and demand in the hobby. And taking the #1 spot for the card from my collection that I saw the highest growth in 2020, we have the Pikachu Scream promo PSA 10. I purchased this card for the price of $40 ungraded straight from Japan at the start of this year, spent $10 to grade it. Total cost was $50. It's currently valued at right around $1,800 for a whopping ROI or return on investment of 3,500%. This was the highest growth card that I saw in my whole entire collection from the start of this year. A really, really ridiculous level of growth. And here's the most interesting thing, the Scream Pikachu promo is actually not the rarest card from the Scream promo set. That actually goes to Mimikyu Scream, which is the most rare version of the whole entire set. But Mimikyu is not even on this list. Mimikyu actually saw lower growth than any of these other Scream promo cards. The Pikachu saw the highest growth, and this is the interesting juxtaposition between supply and demand. While the Mimikyu has the lowest supply, the Pikachu has the highest demand. And really, I think a lot of collectors are too narrowly focused on supply when they're not thinking enough about demand. Demand is just as important, if not more important, than supply. And I can understand why not a lot of people discuss demand, but everyone seems to discuss supply. Supply is something that is really tangible. You can see supply, right? You can see how many copies of a card is available. But demand is kind of invisible. There's a reason demand is called the invisible hand of the market, because you can't really see demand. But this is a point that I think a lot of people need to understand, is you gotta start looking at the demand. You have to see cards that are the most popular, and they're really the cards that are gonna be driving the most growth in the hobby. Alright guys, that was my list for the top 10 cards from my collection at the start of this year that saw the highest growth in 2020. And there are some key takeaways that I got from this list. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree with any points from this list. Takeaway #1, grading cards can potentially lead to the largest gains with added risk, right? Potentially, you can see the most value gain if you can grade a card yourself and it comes back in gem mint or mint condition. Certainly, you're doing really well. There is additional risk with that because you have to buy ungraded cards. They have to be in perfect condition. So there is added risk, but with the added risk comes significant added reward. Takeaway number 2. Graded cards saw an overall higher returns than sealed products. Graded cards saw an average of 800% return on investment in 2020, and my sealed products in my spreadsheet saw an average around 400 to 500% return on investment in 2020. So about half of the gains that graded cards I saw in sealed products. So sealed products did worse, but that's to be expected as well. Sealed products are considered a safer investment than graded cards. Graded cards are much more volatile, so you can see some higher gains, but with added risk. If you want to be a little bit more on the safe side, sealed products will certainly be a better bet long term. They won't keep you up at night, that's for sure. My final takeaway is that promo cards do better than set cards, and I think this is the one that's going to be challenged the most in the comment section. But honestly, from what I'm seeing, most set cards don't do that well, and honestly, that really comes down to the fact that additional set cards are being added to the supply pool pretty much every day because people are pack opening, and with each pack opening, they find additional copies of set cards, whereas promo cards are really set and done unless there really is any reprints of promo cards, which are rare. Promo cards tend to have a dwindling supply, while set cards have an ever-increasing supply. So it's a little bit contradictory. Overall, I think it makes sense that promo cards would do better than set cards. Alright everybody, that's the end of today's video. I hope that it was interesting to you. Let me know down in the comment if you saw anything else that you would like to add. If you have any question, I am more than happy to answer. And do let me know if you have a card from your collection that saw even higher growth than anything on this list, because honestly, I would love to hear about it and congratulate you on a job well done. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.